go to our next session, which is the climate change session. So I would like to hand over to Evelyn for you to start your moderation for the climate change session. Thank you. Evelyn, are you on the call? Perhaps
Yeah,
Lucy
she's here.
is on the call. Thanks, Lucy.
Yes, you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Evelyn. Welcome, and
Okay.
I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much. And I hope that my four speakers can join.
Sorry, Evelyn is back now.
Thank you. Evelyn, if you can go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for this organization. It's a big challenge, really. And so I'm Evelyn Uytbroek from the Green Party of Belgium, member of this global working group, and also member of the European Green Party. And I was regional MP here in Brussels. And so we decide to organize this session around the just transition, and we call it from Belém to Bonn, because you know that the last climate COP was in Belém, and the next one will be in Turkey. But before, there will be in June a pre-COP in Bonn. So we will have four speakers from the different continents and also from diverse perspectives. So we will have a parliamentary, an MEP, because she is parliamentary in the European Parliament, Sarah Mathieu. And then she is from Belgium also. Then we will have someone from the civil society from India, with Hridayesh Joshi, and then we will have someone from Belém, also from an activist with Jazz from Tupinamba, indigenous population. And then we will finish with Clive Donley from Kenya, who is also the coordinator for the Children and Youth Major Group to the UN, and who is the expert. So we will begin, and I hope she is there. I cannot see if she is there or not. You have to inform me. But we will begin normally with Sarah Mathieu. And we will explore what just transition means for each of our four speakers, how also we go away from fossil fuels, and certainly in this difficult international period of conflict. We will speak, of course, about justice in climate action, equitable distribution of cost, and also on climate finance. So we will begin with Sarah Swati Mathieu. I hope she is there. If you can help me and see, because I cannot see.
No, thank you so much, Evelyn. She's having just a small problem to join. Just give us some time. You can move to the next one.
I actually see her connected, to be honest. I can see her name here.
She said that yes, Sarah is trying to join, but she tried with her iPad. So
I can see her.
She's here now.
Has joined.
She's
Yeah,
there?
I see her.
Yes.
Sarah, yes, I see you. Sarah, hello.
Hey,
Good
Evelyn.
morning. No,
Hi.
yes, no, it's good afternoon, but I'm in Chicago, so it's morning for me. Hello, Sarah. So I explained that we will speak with you about just transition also, but I present you, so you are MEP, but you serve also on the Committee on Environment, Climate, Food Safety. And Sarah, maybe you can explain where we are with this just transition from a European perspective, and maybe that you can explain also your own work, the focuses on workers' rights in this just transition. You have 8-10 minutes.
All right,
Thank you.
super. Thanks a lot for inviting me as a speaker here today, and welcome, of course, to the celebration of the Global Greens. Congrats. You are a global family that I cherish very much, as some of you might know, and Evelyn knows I used to be part of the Global Greens coordination, so it's always a really happy occasion to come back to all of you. I'll share a bit my views on climate, green policy, but indeed also the social side, because that's really what I focus on within the parliament. I also was in Belém last year for the COP30, and that was really meant to be a turning point. As you all know, 10 years after Paris, this was really the momentum where the world was supposed to show that we could really raise our climate ambition. But yet, as we are all amongst ourselves here today, we do have to acknowledge, well, the COP kept the process alive, but it didn't really deliver the political breakthrough we were all hoping for. Now, I don't want to be too bleak in a geopolitical moment, really defined by a very horrible Trump administration that really steers towards autocracy. There's a lot of human rights violation, abuse of power. The fossil-based economy is really suffering. I think it really mattered that we as countries have sat together, that we negotiated, and that we avoided a total collapse. So I think it's clear for all of us, multilateralism, it's quite fragile today. The fact that we even ended up with an agreement is not something we should just take for granted. And the final package does include some references to accelerating emissions reductions, the tripling of adaptation finance, and indeed the just transition mechanism, which is something that civil society has really been fighting for. But we also have to be honest, it's still insufficient, where we really hope that Belém would finally bend the global emissions curve downwards by significantly raising countries' climate ambition. It really didn't deliver on that enough. And well, in the agreement, we know it avoids, for instance, really calling for a fossil fuel phase out. There's no real binding commitment, timelines, and all of those things, even though I think we as Greens know it's super necessary to stop expanding on oil, gas, on coal, etc. But well, I think we also have to acknowledge when it comes to the climate leadership, well, we always pretend as Europe, we claim that we are climate leaders, but really that also asks for us to have concrete actions, right? It's you need to put your money where your mouth is, literally, when it comes to climate financing, but really also give the good example. And I think there we were not super credible, and that's really to do with a lot of our internal policies that weakened our position. And that's, of course, due to a giant attack on the Green Deal, on delays in the energy transition, on really compromising just to serve corporate interests, simplification, deregulation, all of those things. And well, I also think that we as Europe, we didn't put enough emphasis on climate diplomacy, for instance, which made us stand quite alone in these kind of negotiations. So I think at the European level, the burning question is really whether or not those ongoing attacks on the Green Deal by the conservative and the far-right groups, as well as some big corporate federations, are actually successful. And there's no black and white answer to that. I think it's quite nuanced. There is this alliance between lobbyists and conservatives that are attacking. So that means weakening of legislation on deforestation. It means a weakening of legislation on car emissions, for instance, on chemicals, all of these things. And it was already clear in the last mandate when it comes to the biodiversity pillar that was really weakly developed. The only thing that we managed to get was a nature restoration law, but there are many other things where still progress is too bleak. Talking about pesticide use, talking about agriculture, for instance, talking about the fact that we have let go of our zero pollution objective. And really, there's also a lot of attack on water quality, habitats protection, all of these things that we as Greens find very important. Now, of course, we're not just taking those hits lying down. We're really putting up a fight. And me as a coordinator on these issues within the parliament, I can tell you that sometimes I really feel every day there's a new fire that needs to be extinguished. It's not always really super fun and games. But I also have to say, and that's the more positive side, there's a lot more climate policy and decarbonization right now when it comes to our economical and our industrial policy. And I think that's a real positive shift. It's really a shift from saying free trade will save us all, and also there will be a trickle-down effect to those that have not so much money, basically. Right now, I think in Europe, there's a bit of a rude awakening when we're seeing that our industrial base is actually super outdated and that we're really losing part of our economical tissue, basically. And it's really the Chinese that are stepping up their game when it comes to clean technology, etc. And that's, I think, really where decarbonization, greening of our industries, renewables, the whole green agenda comes in again. I think everyone is aware now with the conflict in Iran that the dependence on fossil fuel is really costing us a hell of a lot of money, let alone the fact that we are very dependent on some of those suppliers. That's not just the case in Europe, of course, but in the world. And I'm very worried about the ramifications of that. Here in Europe, of course, for some families, it's already becoming more difficult, for instance, to pay their energy bills, etc. But I know in other parts of the world, it's really much more existential. It's really about being able to afford food, basically. I'm really worried if we don't step it up, this might become a real just transition crisis, basically where only the ones that can afford renewables, etc., will be able to prevail and others will not. But well, all that set aside, I think when it comes to the European agenda, what we've as Greens always put forward and what I find super important is that it's not just a climate and environmental agenda, but it's really a just and a social agenda. So we know that, for instance, the impact of climate change, it will be distributed unequally and it will affect vulnerable groups and regions much more negatively. Those that don't have the means or the assets to adapt, they risk to be left behind. And if we don't translate those concerns of vulnerable groups into real green policy that is socially just, I actually think it's also a big political problem because we will then lose those groups to the far right, as has been happening in some of the European member states and all over the world. So we haven't put our money where our mouth is when it comes to social policy, I would say, in the last couple of years. The fight against poverty, it's really slowed down. The long-term budget, it really lacks social investments in affordable and qualitative services of general interest. There's only one member state that really has a just transition approach, so that's Spain. Of course, one of the member states where Greens are also still in power. What we are calling for is a European long-term budget with a revamped social investment to really achieve social progress for all of our citizens. What I am really fighting for is a just transition legislation. What does that mean? It means that member states, regions, industries, corporations, they need to anticipate the transition that needs to happen, because that could actually turn a crisis into an opportunity. The transition in our economies, in our industries, it will create a lot of new jobs. We need to ensure that those are good jobs, that they offer stable employment, that they have a proper living wage, jobs in good working conditions, that those that need to transfer or transition from one industry to another have skilling opportunities and are supported while they're doing it. And so what I want to try to do in the European Parliament is to strengthen the position of the workers, to strengthen the position of the trade unions, and really give that right to training that would help end the huge skills shortages that we have in Europe, that would increase companies' productivity, and we would ensure that people are really prepared for new opportunities being created in, for instance, the energy sector or the circular economy, which is also one of the things that I find super important. But well, I don't want to be too long. I do want to end up with a positive note, because, well, maybe we do have a new momentum to fight climate change. As the last few weeks, we do seem to enter into a new world. Really, this is about the shortages in fossil fuel, the economy that is suffering. There's additional 22 billion already in costs when it comes to fossil fuel industry. This could be a major jolt for climate action. This is about the energy crisis in the Middle East, where we could actually say it could turn into an opportunity. One of the things that we have been advocating for as Greens in the Parliament is to confiscate the windfall profits of oil and gas companies. There are quite some member states already behind that, and we could actually use those funds to finance public transport, to finance the renovation of people's houses that don't have the money for that yet. So that's really what we would call social justice, taking the money from the oil oligarchs and putting it back into the power of the people. So for many people and companies, I think it's really sinking in that the green solutions are really the ones that we should be going for. They are within reach. We can see a skyrocketing interest in electrical vehicles, solar panels, batteries, heat pumps, etc. So I think we really have an opportunity now to combine both climate and social justice. Well, I will keep it at that. Thanks a lot. I hope you have a great workshop. I won't be able to stay longer. I'm very sorry about that, but I'm really happy I could be with you today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you for being with us, and I know that you have another meeting and you cannot stay. But thank you that you mentioned that Europe, yes, we are not enough credible, not enough actions. But when the Greens are in the European Parliament, we have some influences, and so you underline the link also between the climate questions and also the climate justice and your social fight and the influence on the workers. And maybe to underline something also positive is that the last weekend there was the victory of the opposition of Orban in Hungary. So we don't know already if it will have influence on a question of climate, but we know that we have also a green mayor in Budapest in Hungary, and that's also important that on this municipal level we can have influence. Thank you, Sarah. So from Belgium we are going to India, and I see that Hridayesh Joshi is with us. So He is a journalist from an independent media in India, but also many things other. Oh, you are author, you are photograph, and you will speak maybe more on what India is doing, which are the measures taken by India, the impact on biodiversity, and not only India, because I think that you will underline also the work with all this part of the world, with Bangladesh, and how do you feel the countries in this part of the world work enough together and on the specific question of climate and biodiversity. Go on, Hriday. 10 minutes,
Thank
not
you.
more.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll finish. I try to finish within 10 minutes. Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. Really glad. And thank you, Sarah, for wonderful, you started, kicked it off very well. So it's a privilege to be here and part of the important discussion on one of the defining challenges of our times. I will speak from the perspective of India. And let me begin with the India's progress on clean energy, because we have to act, and we have to, as you said, I am a writer and I am a journalist and I am a documentary filmmaker, so I have to keep an eye what is happening in and around our country. So I would like to tell you first what good has happened and what challenges are there. So over the past 15 years, India has undertaken one of the fastest clean energy transition in the world, one of the fastest. And from the modest starting point, India has rapidly scaled up its renewable energy capacity, particularly in solar. We have increased more than 15 times in last 15 years. But there are challenges. I will speak about them also. India has already achieved, overachieved the key elements of earlier nationally determined NDCs, and now they have also submitted their updated NDCs, further raising the ambitions. So the country has, there are policies, and where I'm sitting in the capital of India, Evelyn, I would like to inform you that Delhi has electric vehicle EV policy, is a strong step forward decarbonizing the urban transport. But you will have to look India's position in a context that this is a country where 1400 million people live. We have 18% of world population, and half of it at least lives in a below poverty line. And also we have just 2.4% of land mass and 4% of fresh water. So challenges are very high. I would like to touch what Sarah said about just transition, because it is so important in India. If you look at the map of India, our all coal, fossil fuel is mostly on the east coast, and our, all industry is in the west side. So when we are making just transition, we have to ensure that the people who are in the mining in a fair manner, they are compensated, and they have to they have to get job about this. So this is one thing I wanted to underline about. The challenges with the increasing capacity of clean energy India is facing is this, that we have to improve our grid, because there is grid inflexibility and there are some transmission bottlenecks. So whatever clean energy capacity we have, we can't evacuate it. You understand how coal energy works. If you have to use coal in the night, you have to run it in the daytime also, because it is not like switch on, switch off. So we have to, increase the capacity, and we have to deal with the inflexibility and transmission bottlenecks. Secondly, before coming to climate finance, I want to draw your attention about India's rich biodiversity. It is one of the world's most biodiverse, biodiversity rich countries, home to multiple global biodiversity hotspots. If you look at the Himalayas, which is 2,500 kilometers east to west, and several scores kilometers from north to south, it is one of the richest biodiversity hotspot, and hundreds of endemic species are there. If you look at the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats, they are likewise, they are very rich biodiverse. And there are Sundarbans. If you have heard about Sundarban, which is spread across India and Bangladesh, Sundarban, Evelyn, I would like to tell you, perhaps you may be surprised to know this, that the total islands in Sundarban are more than the number of the countries. Those are in the AOSIS, Association of Small Island States, which take as a group in the COP. We have more island, and we are facing with the climate increasing global warming, we are facing in the East Coast increasing frequency and intensity of cyclones. Fortunately, the Sundarban, which is a rich mangrove forest, is saving us. But how long it will save us if the impacts of global warming keep increasing? So this is the context where we have to look at the biodiversity of India, and this is totally linked to the climate impact and the global warming. Now this brings me to my third and most important point, climate finance and technology transfer. India has demonstrated that it is willing to act, but there is a long way to go and there are problems. It has shown ambition, it has delivered results. Nearly 80%, this is a clear fact, nearly 80% of India's climate finance today comes from domestic resources. Let me repeat it, 80% of India's domestic climate finance. India is a country which is ready to invite investment. It is up to the West, up to the developed countries, how they use this opportunity, because India is bracketed and which is numerically correct that India is, a high emitting country, 9% emission, and India will not get the priority in climate finance. But India is a country which is trying hard to deal with its own problems. So for a developing country with with competing priorities like poverty alleviation, infrastructure and health, this is a significant burden. The global climate framework is built on the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities. Now, developed nations which have historically contributed the most of the emission have committed to mobilize climate finance and enable technology transfer. This is a demand which India has been putting. We want to act, and from a journalist and a disinterested person as a writer, I can say that there is a great awareness in the young generation of India. You call Gen Z and the kids in the school. They want this to happen and they want to put their money there. And India is, as I said, doing 80% of climate finance from within the country. So I would like you, as a friend, as a climate well-wisher, to spread this awareness that India should be supported in this. And in countries like India, who are proactive, ambitious and accountable, do not receive adequate support, it raises a fundamental question about the fairness and effectiveness of the global climate system. Access to affordable finance and advanced technologies, whether in battery storage, and we are, for your information, we have started doing very well in the battery storage, green hydrogen and climate resilient infrastructure is essential for accelerating the transition. I was talking about the problems in clean finance. I want to tell you that the battery storage is really something I'm very hopeful about. And if this happens, India can use its green energy at its most. Before I close, this is just not about India. It is about ensuring the global South can participate meaningfully in climate action without compromising development. So the message is clear. India is acting and it should act. It should play as a responsible nation, which it is doing. We are committed and we are delivering. But for the world to meet the climate goals, global cooperation must move from promise to implementation. So in the last, I would like to thank you again for inviting me. You gave me 10 minutes and I believe I finished well within time.
You were perfect. Thank you very much. And it was very, very interesting. And as you said, the challenges are very high. And also the question of this clean energy. And, in this, for the moment, in this situation, international context of war that also block the transfer of oil and fossil fuel, we have to think more on clean energy, of course. Thank you for putting the specificities of India and more generally of the global source. And also that's very interesting, the great awareness in the young generation in India. I'm sure that we need absolutely to know more from each other. And so you were speaking about young generation, and yes, our third speaker is the young generation. And from India, we are going on the other side of the world, and we are going to Brazil and to the north of Brazil. And so she was in Belém. She is from Belém. and we call her Jas. That's because you can see Jessica Tupinamba, but we call her Jas, and she is together artist, activist, publicist, and more. She will speak about it. She is from an indigenous population, one of the most important of Belém. She told me, I didn't know that. And so explain how you try also to build bridges between the city of Belém and the indigenous territory. And you will also speak about energy and how to use it in a more intelligent way. Jas, it's your turn for a good 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Evelyn. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you, and I suppose that everybody can hear you. Yes. Yes, I see some.
Thank you so much. And happy anniversary, Global Greens. So I would like to first do a special Tupi chant to celebrate your anniversary. And it's called Maracanãndi. Urumuyete Tupã, oroya, oroye, rompia derice. O para pareo, jeransu boreru, ande, ondeia. Maracanãndê, 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 Thank you. This is the chant for the big celebrations we have in my Tupi people. And I'm very glad to share with you today. The theme is profound, and I'm very proud to be here with each one of you. But before we dive into technicalities, I would like to share an image that is the visual definition of the just transition we seek, but also of the challenges we are witnessing. If you could close your eyes for just a moment now and imagine a library. In a dark fantasy, a sacred temple holding the most unique collection. Now, imagine it is being consumed by a massive fire. Around this fire, figures that only observe the destruction. Some stand near the flames, others stand further back. And at the bottom, a master trying to save the manual of the nature, lied on the floor, ignored, about to be turned into ashes in front of the big fire. Is this just a story? What kind of library are we talking about? Are the same we are thinking? The difference between our libraries is the current state of our global dialogue. I come from Amazonia, where since the invasion, culture is not considered part of the conservation. We see institutions meant to ensure dialogue being systematically dismantled, just like in that image we shared first. Our sacred library, called Forest, is burning now because of the roads fails to see that culture is the shelf that holds the books of life. The Amazon is not a spontaneous wilderness. It is a cultivated forest. For centuries, we managed as our library. Our wisdom runs in clouds of connection long way before any machine system. This tradition has held the earth health through systems managed by leaves, not pages, roots, not chargers, and chants, not alarms, where the spoken word is the most invaluable source, because the truth protects and liberates always. So I bring the voice of those who co-author life itself. To many, Amazonia is viewed merely through sensors and investment funds. However, it is a technical imperative to understand that this forest is the result of a millennium open source biotechnology developed without a single drop of petroleum, plastic, or money funds. That's why I believe that there is no just transition without considering culture, because indigenous knowledge is human life native knowledge. Traditional indigenous demarcated territories once was 100% of the planet. Now cover only 28% of the world's land surface and are the last home to over 80% of the planet's biodiversity. And now our people, homes, rivers, mountains, forests, and territories are being threatened by many illegal practices, and we need everyone's help. Indigenous knowledge is alive and resisting, keeping strong through our traditions. Our way to see the role has been proven to conserve nature and culture when indigenous demarcated lands are respected. We cannot achieve effective pathways towards climate justice, full sovereignty, healthy people, and thriving landscapes without the protection of our rights. So, I invite you all to recognize our culture, our voices, our ideas, our intelligence, our science, and already existing solutions in safeguard indigenous knowledge and local technologies by ensuring free, prior, and informed consent for its use, and by supporting our rights. Climate justice, just energy transition, and world's future is knowledge justice, is indigenous knowledge justice. The system suffers from green blindness by seeing a demographic void where there is actually engineering of an infinite biodata catalog, while the West avoid us paying the historical and political royalties of science provided by our sources explored, calling us defenders, savages of the triste topics. The civilization model that calls itself rational, civilized, is in an undeniable state of biological bankruptcy. For example, in biology, a parasite that kills its host is an evolutionary fail. Nature does not accept bribes, nor does it negotiate with entropy. While the world discusses artificial intelligence's use, we have mastered another kind of AI, the ancestral intelligence. We are experts in soil management. We create fertility where there was acidity once, connecting deserts across the whole ocean to feed our earth forests. Genetic improvement, we enhance biodiversity and medicine manually. Coexistence technology, we maintain the climate that allows the world to breathe. We are not a living museum frozen in the past. We are the future that has already been tested and proven. In 2026, it is a diplomatic irony that the civilized must consult the savages to ensure people do not melt down in the asphalt of the street without a single tree, as the immortal master Ailton Krenak would say in his Ideas to Delay the End of the World. So to finish, I would like to share that diplomacy requires recognizing that excluding indigenous science is a form of intellectual plagiarism. And we do not wish only to be conserved. We demand to be respected as scientific, cultural, and political agents. As Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves, and the world will not be destroyed by only those who do the evil, but those who watch without doing anything else. So we are here to move. We must choose the just transition that considers the real ancestral intelligence and library if we really want to live and not only to survive in this planet. To quote Jean Jaurès, the defense of tradition should not be done to preserve the ashes, but to fan the embers. Let us pick up the master and the book that lies on the floor of that burning library. Let us stop mourning the ashes and start fanning the embers of a future where nature and culture alike are one for conservation. Let us rewrite our history from a place of true dialogue and respect for the sacred lands that give us all the energy sources. Kweka Turete, thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado. Thank you so much, Jas. It's really, it's a surprise to listen to you because it's so full and plenty of emotion also. And you underline this question of the forest of millennium, and also that there is no transition without culture. And thank you for underlining the indigenous fights and your rights. And you said something so true. We create fertility. That's true. And also we have to live and not only survive, and that we have to rewrite our history. So thank you so much to be with us today. Thank you very much. And now we are going to our last speaker, and we change from the continent. We are going to Africa. And I hope he's there because I don't see him there. But yeah, I see you. Oh, hello, Clive. So we are going to Kenya, not only Kenya, all Africa. And more than Africa, international. So Clive Donley, she is the global coordinator for the Children and Youth Major Group to the UN, and you are our expert today, but not only expert. I know that you are also a brilliant negotiator. So maybe now it's the voice of the expert. I said it to you at the beginning. We have 4 people coming from different horizons, very different, and each of you is very rich. And explain us how you integrate the youth perspective into the UNEP processes. So thank you. The floor is yours, as we say, Clive.
Yeah, thank you so much, Evelyn. First of all, it is really, really amazing to be here on this 25th anniversary. And of course, conversations like this is what help us again to rejuvenate and keep pushing forward. And so, as already the other speakers have already mentioned, very, very critical pointers on how issues of transition looking like from, country perspective to position that young people are taking, and also the political fact that is being propelled. And just before dissecting much into the work of young people, I think most of us who were engaged last year in the previous COP 30 in Belém, I think most people were there having a lot of expectations, believing that not only believing that this will be a COP to resolve the crisis, but there was already a growing momentum and recognition amongst different stakeholders, partners convening their society that the current approach that is being taken globally, it is not working for everyone. And that's why we have a very, very big gap that we need to accelerate capabilities to close this gap. And now, from the perspective of young people, mostly coming from the global south and being here in Nairobi, already we are seeing a lot of young people are taking innovative solutions to tackle climate crisis. And also young people are already trying to see how we can be able to adapt or take comprehensive approaches, not only on influencing decisions at the decision-making table, but also seeing what is something different that we can do in a way that we can be able to strengthen or incorporate greater cooperation for our future survival. And now, last year at UNEP, we were able to support member states in negotiating and adopting a youth resolution that is now, we are looking forward to a roadmap on how this resolution can be able to be implemented. The implementation pathways of it is what we're trying to look at. And now, wider youth engagement in environmental governance, it is something that for a long time we've been trying to push for in different multilateral decision making, not only in UNEP through the UN Environment Assembly, but also in other global multilateral decision making avenues like UNFCCC, COPs, UNCCD, and also in the multilateral environmental agreements, which again we have been feeling there's been some not really great engagement of young people. And so what we are doing at UNEP, we have through the major group system, first of all, we are trying to incorporate voices of young people from different countries, from different organizations, and brought together under one umbrella, and how they can be able we can be able to support their collective voices in the political discussions and the political setting. But right now we're living at a point where we're seeing we're navigating a different geopolitical turbulence. And again, one big worry of youth engagement mostly is we're seeing there's a lot of repression of civil society participation, and this includes indigenous people, young people, those who are marginalized. And one thing that we are feeling is that again, in this different geopolitical turbulence, we're seeing again different governments are taking unpredictable decisions with profound risks of miscalculations. And as we all collectively are gearing towards critical solutions, tackling climate crisis, ensuring the future is sustained away from conflicts, again, we're seeing that the world we're living in today, there's an increase of global tensions, and all these tensions are escalating to physical confrontation of war. And now, again, we are very, very worried that these tensions, as they increase, the momentum to tackle other pre-existing global challenges like poverty, like environmental degradation, climate change, we find that now the momentum is reducing, and also the resources that needs to be set there, it is also being reduced or being restricted, and priority is now shifting somehow away from critical issues to global confrontation of war. And now, last year, UNEP was able to release a global adaptation gap report. And in this adaptation gap report, UNEP has continued to echo or to warn on the stark reality that we are living in, the consequences that we are living in, the fragility that we are living in if concrete solutions are not being taken. And now this is also reducing momentum, because from time to time we go to greater multilateral decision making, but we find that momentum in these negotiations are reducing. And so what we gathered together at youth at UNEP, and we decided to think outside the box, think of something. And in 2023, we thought of coming up with a youth resolution on engagement in environmental governance. We believe this was something that could add young people's voices into tangible table of decision making. And so through all that process, when we went to UNEA 6 in 2024, this resolution was not able to be adopted or negotiated because there was no greater consensus. And we kept on pushing for it to be, for this discussion to be reopened in 2025 during the seventh session of the UN Assembly. And so in all that process last year, we saw when governments came together in Nairobi, we were able to lobby for this resolution to be adopted, recognizing critical voices of young people in environmental decision making, and also the aspect of environmental education. It is something that mostly resonates a lot with us here in the Global South, aspect of technological advancement, or aspect of skilling, and mostly how we can be able to come up with concrete solutions that are people-centered, that can be able to tackle the triple planetary crisis, be it on biodiversity loss, chemicals, and pollution, and wider environmental challenges. But again, one thing that now that we're discussing the greater approach on the just transition, already we are seeing that there's a good momentum that is growing on adoption of the just transition as a term. But again, one big worry is, why is the momentum being delayed by governments, mostly on agreeing on the term? Because from time to time we've seen in negotiations, there's no, some may argue that there's no a definitive term of what just transition is. And again, you find that countries or South and North, you find that there's some kind of disagreement or non-understanding on what the just transition should look like and what it is. But this is why now, moving forward to from Belém coming to Bonn and later Italia. So what we are trying to look at is, one, we want the aspect of financing to be more advanced and to be more predictable. We need direct access to local actors to be more standardized in practice, mostly the vulnerable communities and the forefront communities. And secondly, when it comes to planning and connectivity, we need the aspect of, for example, the national adaptation plans to incorporate more comprehensive inputs and trying to close those budgetary gaps of implementation. And again, now that I think yesterday or today, the World Bank is warning that we may be having a global recession very soon if the war continues in the Gulf. Again, it is something that, again, it is a very big worry for us, because we find that now governments are trying to subsidize economies in different way, but now the priority of tackling environmental challenge like climate change, it is now no longer being prioritized. And again, this is something that it is reducing momentum, and the priorities is greatly shifting, and this is so worrying. And so therefore, to young people out there, again, on this 25th anniversary, we already have collective voices, and we already have avenues to support comprehensive approaches to tackle challenges that we are facing. And we need to come up with more innovative ways, more innovative solutions. And maybe perhaps it is time to begin looking at climate finance and wider environmental finance, move away from traditional partners or traditional partners that have been committing to resources. But again, as much as we call for, historical reparations, mostly on issues around, environment adaptation, mitigation, it is also time for us to begin seeing how we can be able to come up with different comprehensive accountability frameworks to support climate financing, and also to be able to advance different mechanisms. And so in closing, here in Nairobi, as we continue to support youth engagement in wider environmental governance at the aspects auspices of UNEP, again, we're trying to ensure that the voices of young people from different countries are being echoed all around globally, from be it in the north or south. We want all these voices to be able to complement the stance that is already there, and also to lobby with our government to ensure that these voices these comprehensive voices that are being echoed from different parts of the world, that they're not losing form, but being influenced in all this decision making. Thank you, and back to you, Evelyn.
Thank you so much, Clive. It was very clear, and thank you for respecting the schedule. So we have some minutes for question, but you are right. Momentum are reducing, really. We know it. I'm going to the COP since a long time, and we know that we need a lot of action and certainly more place for young people in international discussions. Thank you to you for pushing that and be very, very active, and probably that Bonn will be a good momentum. And so I have two questions on what I see, but I see that Uli Kinderman is asking if some people are going to the conference of Bonn, because there can be also a cooperation between the Global Green and also with the German Greens about this moment. But I propose that we discuss that in the climate working group and that we organize that maybe, but that's a good opportunity to meet us. But then there is another, there is a question from Aniste Una. What is one accountability mechanism that is needed to prevent just transition from becoming a political slogan rather than a measurable outcome? That's a big question. Maybe you have an idea, Clive?
Yes, actually, when it comes to accountability mechanism, it is what we really need, because even when you check on different documents that have already been adopted, or different solutions that have already been adopted, there's a greater language on, supporting implementation, working with stakeholders in different settings. But I find that the greater accountability mechanism, it is what is missing, mostly when it comes to negotiations. And mostly the big reason why this is happening is because countries more oftenly try to prioritize their political interests rather than people's will people's will and commitment. But we have very many avenues on how we can be able to put accountability on this. One is I think there's need for civil society all around the world to call on their governments to come to develop of an initiative to keeping political aspects on check. For example, looking at what is happening now in the UN Security Council, there's already been a proposal to try to limit, let's say, the veto powers in some sensitive issues where, I mean, the veto powers should not really apply. And so we need to put to ease and pressure on the diplomatic perspective on negotiation. Additionally, when it comes to relying on science, mostly science is what is driving all these aspects of informing all these decisions that are being taken. And I think when it comes to that, at least there should be a cap that needs to be implemented by governments, that when it comes to issues of science, it is no longer debatable in the political setting. It is adopted how it is because it is a scientific finding. And lastly, I think also trying to lobby with our governments, I think it is something that is I've learned to be very, very critical, because sometimes governments may act in a way that does not please us as people whom they are representing. But again, sometimes you find that as much as we may try to, deviate from engaging much with government, that is still the same people who are going to, to represent us in all these decisions that are being taken. So the power of lobbying, it is something that, again, we've seen to be very, very powerful. Lobbying with them, and also negotiating with them and meeting at the middle of the tent in a way that we can be able to compromise on some critical solutions that can be able to strengthen voices of the society of whom they're representing.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Clive. And I think that we have to finish our session. I see it's, yes, in Chicago it's 9:28, but we have to finish now. But really, I want to thank to our 4 speakers. It was very, very rich, very interesting. I hope that maybe we register everything and that we can also send your intervention to all our Greens friends. And thank you to be with us. It's, as I said in the beginning, it's a real challenge to organize this. And again, thank you, Karen, and all the team that organized that, because it's really not easy, but we did it and we will do it. So I finish now this session on climate. We probably will meet, maybe in Bonn, maybe in the next COP, maybe in another webinar. So thank you very much, and I give the floor to the next one. Thank you.